My brothers and I were continents apart, yet I consider myself very fortunate to have been able to reconnect with them one final time for a goodbye. That's today's subject. Hello, my name is Ellen. Welcome to my channel. I really appreciate you tuning in and supporting me. Thank you. So, I have actually 3 points that I'm going to cover with you today. The first point was how they woke me up in the middle of the night. Number two would be the surge of energy that they must have used in order to visit me one last time. And number three, the message that I received from them. So, number one would be, I was woken up in the middle of the night. These two brothers, they passed some years ago. I now feel strong enough to talk about it. So that's why I would like to share it with you. Also, because I went out with a friend of mine just a few days ago, and he had told me also about an experience he has had with his father who had passed on. So I guess I'm not the only one. And so I would welcome you to share your experiences, maybe on a comment or what have you. I know I'm not the only one, but I wanted to share these experiences with you because I find the more we talk about it, the easier it's going to get to perhaps overcome the amount of grief that we often feel right afterwards, and to come to a sense of understanding, perhaps. To give you some more context, the first time I was living up in the Northwest, and I had been contacted by my younger brother, who was only 49 when he passed. So sad. Anyway, he was 49, and he woke me up in the middle of the night. Must have been around 1:30, 2 o'clock, and I just heard this beeping, beeping from my computer, my laptop, that I had parked on my counter. And I know I always, I always turn it off at night, and I just heard this beep, and I was like, okay, maybe. First, I thought it was maybe the smoke detector or what have you, but we needed new batteries. But then I got up and I went to my laptop and I opened it up, and it was just a lot of snow, so to speak, snowy, like disturbing. It's just strange. It wasn't the usual welcome. Um, so I turned it off again and I closed it. Then I went back to bed and I was almost asleep. And then the lights turned on in the living room, and I always had my bedroom door open. So I was awake again and got back up. Then my computer started again. And I was like, what is going on? And I just kind of felt some warmth. And I was like, okay, this is the strangest thing. That was my first experience with a brother that is passing. We were rather close, and he was always into computers. Oh my gosh, like an IT guy. Everything was always about Facebook and Instagram and you name it, all of the official ones. He was always into the latest technology. The next morning, however, my daughter, late morning, she knocked on my door and told me about his passing. And obviously, I was a little devastated, although I must say that night, I kind of had an inkling. I was wondering if something had happened to one of my loved ones. I just kind of felt, I don't know, but it's almost like a foreboding of something, devastating. So I was obviously shocked that he had passed, but I added, I put it together really quickly, and I said to myself, oh, now I know why why he woke me up in the middle of the night. It was his goodbye to me. That's how I even now look back, and I'm like, that's exactly how he would have communicated with me, because we always connected, me by laptop, and we were on all these different um, public forum, so to speak, to connect with one another and share stories, because he was living in Europe and I was living on the West Coast in the United States, obviously. So that is how he connected and said his final goodbye. Um, so that was some time ago, obviously. And then later on, when I moved to California, I had another encounter, so to speak, with an older brother of mine who had passed on. I did not know of that night, but I was woken up, and at that time I was living in California, and it was early October. It was actually the 2nd of October, a day prior to his daughter's birthday, and he had passed on. I'm not going to go into details how it all happened, but it was pretty gruesome, actually, but also very private. So I'm going to protect my family, obviously, about all the details. But I was contacted by him in the middle of the night. Again, it was about 2:30, 3 o'clock, and it was a rather warm night, and I woke up freezing. I was just so cold, and I couldn't understand why I was cold. And I, it was dark in my bedroom, and I thought I saw some kind of shadow. I had a connecting bathroom, and it was just so cold. I mean, I was really shivering. My teeth were actually rattling a bit. It was a strange sensation. I just felt there was a presence, and not necessarily a positive presence, maybe. It was just a bit scary because I'd never felt that way before. And I prayed right away, protecting me and rebuking whatever was going on. And then I got up and I had it. I turned the light on, and immediately it got warmer in my bedroom. And since then, I've been reading a lot about what it takes at times for deceased loved ones to visit you, that it takes a lot of energy apparently for them to encounter, to come in contact with you. There were no words spoken, but it was very different from the feel I had with my younger brother, whom I had a really close connection to. My older brother, not so much. However, the very next day, I was contacted over WhatsApp that my older brother had passed on as well. And that, again, that was years later, and I was living in California. And then I said to myself, okay, that was him. I just knew that was him, that he just wanted to say goodbye, I guess, in his way. And it's still interesting how I saw, it was not that I saw him, but it was almost like an outline of something. And I don't know what that was. It might have just been me being sleepy. I have no idea. But I remember it being icy cold in my bedroom. And after, I said a quick prayer and rebuked the feeling that I felt, just presence, and I turned the light on finally, it went away, and it went right back to normal temperature, which was about 70, which was kind of interesting. So I'm wondering if any of you has ever had these kind of experiences. What I often don't understand is that when loved ones come back to say goodbye, I must say that in the past, from what I've heard as well, is that people have these eerie feelings. Sometimes, there's a book that falls down, and it's really noisy, and it opens up to a certain page, maybe around a conversation that person has had with that loved one that passed on. There are all kinds of interesting connections. Other times, people feel not just a presence, but they actually feel something invading them, some kind of chill that I did not feel with my brother. It was more like goosebumps, like I needed an extra blanket when I already had a sheet and a light blanket on that I had on every night. It doesn't get that cold inside of a home in California, not in early October. It's still rather warm there. So I know for sure that I was visited by my older brother in California and my younger brother, I'm so sorry, from my younger brother when I was living in the Northwest. Again, the computer gig, communicated very different with me versus my older brother, who was more about reading books and having real conversations, one-on-one always. that he really enjoyed. So it's interesting how people connect with others. I want to remind you that there is an episode 17 that I have, where I also had a, but that was not a confrontation. It was more of a visitation and a visual observation of three teenagers that had passed on that afternoon. They had an accident actually. Their plane went down just down the street from where we all lived at that time, and that was in Oregon. So you might want to take a look at that. That was my first encounter that I actually saw people that had passed on. My immediate family, I just kind of felt, so I felt them close to me. Um, my younger brother gave me the warmth all over my body, and I felt connected somehow. I didn't know what that was, but my first thought was my brother, and also that something must have happened. So when the message came the next morning, I was devastated, but I wasn't surprised. My second experience was more about just this cold chill. But again, apparently from all the understanding that I have, and I don't know who does, right? But from what I read, was that it does take a huge amount of energy for someone to basically come and visit. And so I just wanted to share that with you. And I don't know how many there are out there who also have had similar experiences. But I'm thinking the more we talk about these things, perhaps the less anxiety or fear people have about dying, because death is not final. I know that for sure now. It is just interesting how it touches us in different ways. How we, at times, I feel honestly blessed that I've had these encounters, because that's what I name them. I really do feel that they encountered me one more time, one last time, to say, hey, sis, goodbye. I'm leaving. I'm going to be gone, and I'll see you later. Because that's kind of what it's all about. I'm thinking we all are, we need to stay open. And perhaps the next generation will look at these videos and say, well, yeah, of course, there is an after death kind of thing. To us, we are still kind of uh, in the in the experience of um, of sharing these experiences, and it's all kind of news to many of us, right? But the next generation might be even more open to where it is an everyday thing that people talk about. So hopefully, the more light we shed on things like these subjects, the more we come to a comprehension of what might happen after we pass on. But anyway, so this is going to be it for today. It's a shorter video. I hope that you found some kind of connection here, and perhaps a feeling of more peace, um, that there is more out there than we can understand completely. So if this made sense to you, please like and share. And of course, subscriptions with YouTube is always free. So I would encourage you to subscribe. I'm still relatively new. Although, like I said, if you're interested in more information, there is, like I said, I have the episode 17, Death is Not Final. You might want to look at that. That's also a very interesting experience I've had. So anyway, until next time, and I wish you a great Tuesday, and then I will see you on Friday. Thank you so much. Bye bye.